That I'm a big Minnesota Vikings fan, as you can see on the wall here, and the Vikings are eliminated. So I really don't have much to do anymore on Sundays. However, I do have this little jazzy little setup here with this microphone and camera and, you know, a few little tools and toys I can use for some entertainment and brush off some few hobbies, or old hobbies, I should say. And, you know, recording myself and listening to myself talk is one of those. You know, I'm one of those vanity guys like everyone else, you know, which leads us into our subject today, or our event for today: DC versus Marvel. I don't get a clap or hooray or anything like that, you know, not hey about time type thing. No, seriously, it's really not a debate. I myself is a fan of both, or a fan of both. Ever since I was a kid, you know, of course, I grew up with Marvel, watching the Spider-Man, having the Spider-Man draws. And then once you kind of get older, you know, you start getting more adult content, where I got into Spawn and Batman and Martian Manhunter, and start understanding Ra's al Ghul a little bit more, and just understanding what Superman's kryptonite really was, and his consciousness, and Doomsday and Doomsday Clock and the Tower, all that good stuff. It just came to me a little later on in life because I had to get that understanding. And then now that I'm older, I kind of look at it that way, where, you know, DC characters are more relatable as an adult, because every single villain really isn't a villain in DC, right? When you think about it, Bane, is he really a villain, or is he misunderstood? Joker, is he really a villain, or is he misunderstood? Right? The Riddler, is he a villain, or is he just misunderstood? They're all misunderstood, right? Penguin, same thing, right? Is he a villain, or is he misunderstood? Now, if you look at it from the Penguin's aspect, I mean, he was given up as a child. He has a deformity, so therefore he's just mad at the world. So a lot of these characters are misunderstood, and once you become an adult, you understand them. With Marvel, it more so paints a picture, as in social justice, I guess you can say. It helps children understand more why they're different, how to not to be ashamed if they're different, if they're better than everyone else, to not be ashamed of that either. Don't let the world put you down just because you're more advanced. So there are lessons to be taken from both. Like I said, as a child, I've taken a lot from Marvel. As an adult, there's just so much in DC that I like as an adult, man. But yeah, that brings us to the videos today. So of course, I didn't do much searching. I didn't put a playlist together. All I did was typed in the search here, Marvel versus DC, just to see what they got. I think I want this to be a ongoing series, just because I like the topic, and I think everyone can engage and kind of chat about this. Now, a lot of people do get into arguments, because you have the people who just watch the movies, who don't watch or read the comics, and vice versa. You have people who read the comics and just absolutely hate the movies, and there's nothing wrong with that. Whatever floats your boat is fine. However, just stay in your lane. I think a lot of people get out of that lane, to where, you know, they watch movies and then all of a sudden it's Marvel is the greatest thing in the world because they had 3 good movies, or 3 big box office movies, right? Not 3 spectacular movies. Even if you look at the track history, the latest releases have not been really good, in my opinion. They really haven't. Same thing with DC, right? A lot of people would say, well, that's just the cash cow is only Batman, which is totally fine. You can have that too. But that is my opinion on that. I want to hop in and see what everyone else says. So let's get right into it. Let's see how this video and what they talk about.
Before we start this video, we just want to take a moment to say thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring this episode. It's so important to take care of your mental health, and for me personally, I've struggled with everything from anxiety to even depression. I personally sought out BetterHelp to talk about a lot of my issues and the things I was struggling with before I started Jubilee Media. So I'm a huge proponent of BetterHelp. They'll actually assess your needs by asking you a few questions about yourself, about what you're interested in working on,
but
and then match you with your own licensed professional therapist, and you can start communicating with them within 48 hours.
Let's jump to the intro,
The
y'all.
original Spider-Man were not good. Like, I grew up watching those, and I was not a huge fan.
The Tobey?
No.
Maguire?
Yeah, Tobey.
What?
I didn't know that.
Oh, yeah, we like it in theater mode.
When I look back at my fandom since I was tiny, you know, the biggest impact I think for me has been Batman. When people really know comics, they know what DC's bringing to the table.
I could see how they can defend like their video games and their comics, but I don't know how they're gonna back up the movies.
No shade, but their movies aren't that great.
Ultimately, you see a very cookie cutter pattern of how Marvel makes their films versus DC, which is super gritty, super dark.
I will die on a hill of really apologizing and loving some of these new movies more than most people should.
I think my only expectation really is to kind of understand, where the other side's coming from. How do they connect with someone like Superman, who to me has the personality of a brick?
All right, so right there is exactly what I said. There's no way Marvel is better than DC, in my opinion. Like, they're just gonna have to bring a great argument when it comes to DC versus Marvel, because it's kind of hard for a Marvel fan to tell a grown adult that Marvel is better. Like, I can't sit down and read the cookie cutter material that Marvel is. It's wash, rinse, repeat every single story, right? The good guy gets beat up, the villain feels bad, they recruit the villain, they fight somebody who's much stronger than they are, they recruit them, and then all of a sudden somebody else goes rogue, right? Whether it's a superhero, the villain that just turned good, or the villain of the villain who just turned good, somebody goes bad, and then somebody sacrifices themselves for the good of the team. I mean, that's just Marvel, man. I mean, every single movie is the same. Every single issue is the same. You can disagree if you want to with that. But if we were to sit down and watch a movie together, I would point out exactly how these movies are the same. With DC, it just isn't. Now, back to what one of the guys said. Now, you didn't really hear much slander about DC. All they said was that their movies aren't that great. And then you heard somebody else say, well, DC Comics are fantastic for years. And that's just it. So are we really going to sit here and say Marvel is better just because they had, 3 box office movies? And comics been out for, over centuries? But anyways, let's get back into it.
My name is Ryan. I'm a philosophy major at university. I studied art history as well. The more I think about it, those things tie in a lot for the reason why I love comics so much.
Hey, I'm Will. I'm a lifelong, I would say comic book fan, but really DC homer, as my friend would call me. Apologist, some would say, to a certain degree.
So I'm Matt, and I am as well a DC guy. I'm actually trying to get into voice acting and voiceover. Like, watching all these animated shows and whatnot, it's really inspiring to see all these characters come to life through voice and whatnot, so that's what I'm trying to do.
Hi, I'm Sarah. Marvel's pretty much always been like my favorite genre of movies. I love watching all the movies. I really love cinematography and I love how they're always played out. So yeah, I'm a Marvel fan.
I'm Nick, and I like Marvel so much that I bought a 3D printer and started printing a bunch of props for it. So I've got a 4-foot Stormbreaker sitting in my room, not doing anything.
I'm Chris. I'm a Marvel fan. I wish I could say super fan. Just within the recent years, I've been getting like deep and deeper into it. So there's some things I may not know about, but I'm cultured around the area, so I can get around.
Marvel is.
So did you guys see the difference between the fan bases, right? The Marvel fans are more geekier and goofier, and they just know movies. One of the girls said that, or the girl said, all she knows is the movies. All she watch is the movies. The last guy said that he doesn't know too much about the comics. He's just starting to get into it, so there's a lot he doesn't. And you can tell he doesn't know a lot, and he's not going to know a lot by saying, well, I dibble and dabble, and, I'm willing to learn. Yeah, you're willing to learn because you don't know anything about comics. They don't know anything about Marvel or DC. And that's the thing that bothers me about Marvel fans so much, is that they don't know anything about comics. And they just jump into this argument or this debate and just say, hey, this is why it's better. That's not the case at all, why it's better. But anyways, let's continue with the video. Oh, going back to the DC fans, you see they're more mature, right? They're more masculine. It's just obvious. And then the other guy on Marvel talk about he built a whole bunch of props and have a 3-foot tower sitting in his house for no reason or in his bedroom for no reason. Dude's a nerd. Everybody on the Marvel panel was a nerd, was a geek that don't read comics. They're just fascinated. They're just fascinated. But yeah, let's go ahead and continue.
Only considered better because of the movies. Walk forward if you agree.
Unless they're comic book fanatics, I don't hear anybody talking about the comics, let alone the shows, even the games or anything. I only hear the movies.
Thank you for being the only one here, by the way. Because it is challenging, I think, right now to be a DC fan because of that feeling. Socially, the conversation is Marvel.
Oh, yeah.
So extremely that every time DC puts out a movie, it's like almost expected that you're supposed to shit on it.
Right.
Because it's not as good. They did it wrong. Now, have they
Facts.
stumbled along the way?
Big
Tons
facts.
of times. But I get this feeling that no one's entering into seeing a DC movie to just be vulnerable and experience what they're being given.
And it's recency bias, right? Because Christopher Reeve with Superman launched, but then you also think about the Batman, so Michael Keaton, right, and Jack Nicholson, and then
Big facts. That's all it is. Again, the difference between the two is that Marvel had 3 big box office films. That's it. Other than that, the DC has so much content. It's iconic in ways, man. The dominance in comics and animated series and everything else and merchandise and video gaming. DC just rules everything. But that goes back to this conversation here where they said that it's kind of discouraging being a DC fan because whenever DC releases something, Marvel fans feel like they have to crap on him, right? Just because they're not cultural or they don't like that kind of content, when really it's just more mature content.
even Batman Forever with Val Kilmer, maybe not so much after that, you know, but there was no Marvel movies at the time.
The Dark Knight kind of faded into the background when people talk about DC movies. And it's like, those were great films.
Awesome.
I mean, we don't have the Marvel Cinematic Universe, in my opinion, without Batman Begins.
All right, disagreeers, come forward.
I'm still on your side, you guys.
Did you forget we were here? The movies, the TV shows, the video games, the comic books, the books, when you oversimplify it to one aspect, you're immediately erasing thousands of people's hard work and not giving them the credit that they deserve as they add to the rest of the brand.
I guess I'm thinking, could you argue that simply because of the MCU, more people care? It used to be that to be a nerd back, even in the 90s, because I love Spider-Man, X-Men, all that stuff from the 90s, doing...
Definitely. I will say that the MCU have made comics relevant again. That's a fact, bro. No one was caring about comic characters until Marvel movies start coming out or until they pair with Disney.
Cosplay, when I was doing cosplay, people yelling at me, saying stupid, dressing up in movies, all kinds of stuff. Now cosplayers get millions of followers like on Instagram. The MCU actually made nerds cool.
Yeah.
And so when I think of better, I think like, kind of to your point, detracts from all the like suffering of the nerds that got kicked and shoved in their closets.
To get here.
So now that the MCU exists, I'm like, oh, now you want to say it's cool. Okay, fine, yeah.
I do believe some of the comics do better than some of the Marvel stuff that is out. Like with all the Spider-Man, the original Spider-Man were not good. Like I grew up watching those and I was not a huge fan.
Wait, the 90s?
No. Yeah, Toby.
What?
I did not.
What? The Sam Raimi? He's worse than Andrew Garfield?
I see those movies as like corny perfection. It's like
But it's
absolute
corny,
cheese.
like you said, it's corny.
Right, I love that.
He didn't give me that representation. I'm an awkward T. He was like a very just dark and like brooding, like more DC. He just was very not awkward, how I wanted to see Peter Parker.
You're telling me that Spider-Man 3 dance wasn't awkward to you?
That was...
Your generation, especially now, you can see that you guys don't really like the dark, gritty, because right now,
Everyone
everything that's going on
everyone
right
just
now,
wants happy stories.
yeah, everything that's going on right now, you don't want to see even darker.
I want
shittier
depression
things. You wanna see-
personified.
Yeah, more whimsical. Yeah, exactly.
I think DC kind of shows people like what they already see in humanity. They're like, wow, are our cities actually like this? Like, is this actually happening? I feel like people kind of
Big
get
fact.
scared and they're like, yeah, I don't want to deal with that.
Our characters are more relatable.
Let's run real quick. It's just the fact that, especially like me growing up, that I could just look at like these different heroes. Like I was like, I'm not built like no Captain America, but I can relate to him in the heart. It's what matters. And so I'm just like, just seeing every character. I'm like, oh, that's me. Oh, wait, that could be me. Oh, that could be me. And I'm just like, I've just experienced that with Marvel. And that's how I was just like, let me just run up in here real quick.
Peter Parker and his anxiety. It's so relatable as a teenager and seeing another teenager get all these superpowers, and he's like, I'm just a kid, like, I'm just trying to go to school, like, I need a break.
It's kind of a combination between the comics, the TV shows, the MCU in total. When you humanize a character first and then introduce their abilities, you not only give the audience time to relate to them and attach themselves to the character, but you give them an opportunity to see them superpower, amazingness. Things like that, just make Marvel just a bit more relatable to me.
Welcome.
There is an element to DC that I get.
And that's exactly what I said too. Marvel is more so for social justice issues, right? They tell you a lot about being different. Don't be ashamed of who you are. There are groups of people out here wanting to kill you. There are people out here wanting you not to be good. There are people out here saying they are the dominant race, even though you're a better species or a more dominant species. So with Marvel, totally agree. And so far, those are two great points that the Marvel team had made, that the MCU has made comics relevant again. Totally agree. And that Marvel is more so about helping you identify with yourself as a child, when you're coming up with, just being bullied, when you have depression, anxiety, when people have body shamed you, they have things like The Thing is a great one. Beast is another one, so, I mean, they do teach great lessons. But like I said, that's the difference between DC and Marvel, is that one is for children and one is for adults. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. That they are unrelatable. Superman really is the most obvious, because he's overpowered from another planet, all these things. But at the same time, at the core of all that is this unbreakable goodness.
Like Superman, one of the things I always found really endearing is he comes from a different planet. He has unlimited power, but at the same time, once he met Ma and Pa Kent, he fell in love with like the family and being a high schooler and learning how to acclimate. And so at the end of the day, they are dealing with the same human and basic problems and conflicts that we have,
I think that's where Zach really tried to tie it all in. It's with Batman vs. Superman. DC fans hated. They were not about it. And it's just like,
Don't worry, we did too.
everyone hated it. Exactly. People were not a fan of it, but it's just like he tried to humanize these characters. And that was really an important step to take, because with Superman, Batman, they were never shown to have a breaking point or be showed up as the villain.
Fallible too,
yeah. But also going back to representation and relatability, like, Asian. Not many Asian superheroes, but with Shang Tsung and all these other characters, I would give props to Marvel. And as long as it's not forced, like shoved down people's, that's what I really don't like. But as long as it's not shoved down people's throats and like, you're gonna have to digest this, then I'm all for it.
When you guys did bring on Peter Parker and Spider-Man, with that, me being from New York, and so I was just like, I see him and I see me. At the time, I was like, oh, I want to go to this college too, and I want to go here, and I want to do that. And then like, hopefully do get bit by a spider on the way there. So I'm just like, okay, cool.
I genuinely, as a kid, and like having what I felt like my own superhero backstory was like losing a parent at a young age, being kind of a caretaker to her, my mom, when I was 15, and still losing that person, it rewired in my brain many things, one of which was take care of other people and put yourself second, put everybody else first. 2, never show the crack in that it's actually.
See, so it's hard why everyone relates to Superman when we're all not super, right? I totally get what they're saying there. For me, what made Superman relatable is that Superman is doing everything to be human. He's trying to be human. He's living in the world where he knows he's a god. He can do, be, and have anything that he wants, but he can't. He rather sacrifice himself to save the people of Earth, right? And I think that's the moral of the story with Superman to me, is that you have to suppress your ego in a lot of ways, right? There's times where you come across people and you're kind of like, okay, I know I'm bigger, I know I'm better, I know I'm faster, I know I'm stronger, I know I'm more intelligent, so forth, so forth. But with Superman, he lets you know that even though you are all these things, that you have to scale that back and you have to be human amongst everyone else. And then even when you go through your change, you have to hide your identity. So it's the craziest part that he's actually playing a character, then he has to become himself in a time of crisis. And I think that's the greatest story of Superman, and that's what makes him relatable to me, at least. But so far they're making great points. It is kind of ironic that a lot of people identify with Superman, because how can you identify with a man who has every single power in the universe? It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, that's one of the reasons why I relate to Superman.
Actually crippling you trying to be perfect, because I did always try to say like, when you see me, you're gonna be like, how does he just fly through life? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought that was healthy, wasn't. And then once I realized that I actually could be vulnerable, I could be broken, and that being broken is more beautiful and makes you more powerful, that sort of opened up the floodgates of finding those things in the DC characters. And I think the writers, especially now in comics, are going that route.
My fan community can be toxic.
Do you want to talk about a no-brainer question?
Right. Perfect response. That's a no-brainer question, bro. Everybody should have walked up at that point. I've been in both chat rooms and both groups talk sideways, bro, out of the side of their neck, just craziness, to the point where it's like, I know people haven't read the comics, and instead of sticking to the comics or the books or the movies, they go into things like, oh, you can't type, your English is bad, you look stupid, you know, stuff like that. Like they resort to kid stuff, like we're playing Xbox or something, you know. But yeah, everybody should have walked forward on that one.
I was gonna say, I think we can all agree that every fan can be toxic.
Even if it's something as simple as, you know, someone's title changing or someone becoming a new hero, you immediately get the people on Twitter just being like, I hate this person. I honestly feel really bad for Brie Larson, because she got the brunt of it during that whole Captain Marvel phase. And personally, I liked her. I think she's a great actress. I think
I don't really understand what the problem is.
I don't either.
I'm not a big fan of the character, but I was like, this is fun. I don't want to know
exactly. It's like when you dehumanize the actor and treat them as they're only that.
Right.
That's not being a fan.
Yeah.
That's being an ass.
I remember when Black Panther came out, a lot of people refused to see it because they said it's a PC movie.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's like there's so much vitriol in different corners. I like to believe it's not most people, but like the loudest voices on social media are like always. Yeah,
always.
exactly.
Because those are the ones that get attention.
Right.
Yeah, even the Black Panther, anything like this is supposed to be a black Superman coming out, and people are gonna be like, oh yeah, that's born of the political correctness. But there's been iterations of black Superman.
Also,
I agree right there. I totally agree. Now, I can be on the other side too. I felt like people overdid it with Wakanda and Black Panther. I mean, people actually showed up to Black Panther with, I was going to say Kutha cloth, but with dashikis on and kufis, and I mean, doing the sign and the Black Power fist. And I'm just like, bro, there's no such thing as Wakanda. I'm sorry, like they did all that for Wakanda, man. So I see the other side too when it comes to Superman. Yeah, I you know what, surprisingly, I haven't seen a lot of that. I haven't seen a lot of people shoot down the black Superman. However, there was some time ago where I worked with a gentleman, and when he found out that I was getting ready to call the man Morgan Freeman or Larry Fishburne, but y'all know who I'm talking about, Nick Fury. I'm drawing a blank right here. But when they found out he was black, they were like, oh no, I can't believe this. And I'm kind of looking at him like, but you're a comic book fan, man. So how can you not be excited for a new release, even though you don't like the star actor? Like, it's the story. It's the... them putting a personality and making them human. That's what we're supposed to like when it comes to the comic book movies. So I totally agree there. Now, when it comes to Carol Danvers, I do think that was a terrible movie. I didn't like any of her roles in any of the movies. The comics were a little bit better, especially, you know, the comics they had to pull from the shelves where, you know, she was forced to have a child by a being who came to her and impregnated her. So it was almost like a Jesus story. But yeah, they just didn't like that, because if you were to say that was considered the R word, you know, the bad touch, then you would have to say the insemination of Mary was the same thing. So they had to pull that comic, but I thought that was so epic.
It's comic books, so why not?
Yeah, it's not only limited to just white people. And
There's a multiverse for a reason.
Yeah, it's a multiverse, exactly.
Well, I get toxicity on my end just for being a girl. And like you guys are predominantly, I mean, it's all males.
Yeah.
But I mean, I've never been like directly targeted at, but I definitely do get the sense of like, oh, you're female? You don't know what you're talking about. You have no idea. Oh, you're younger? You have no idea what you're talking about.
I really probably could have came with everybody. I think the only reason why I didn't was because it was prefaced by saying my community. I'm not on Twitter, I'm not on Instagram, and so I'm ignorant to it, I guess is what it is. I had a weird situation. You know, I would be, I guess, more in the jock category growing up, in the sense of that was more my reputation, I suppose. But anyone who knew me and any of my friends came over to my house, like when I started dating, like in high school, and the girls came over to my house, I had action figures everywhere. You know, so the jig was up, you know what I mean? And like, you know, this is really who I am and what I'm really about, and I always found I got a great reaction from that. I think if people buy too much into the toxic nature of Marvel versus DC or whatever the movie is and their gripes on it, they're losing a chance to focus on the positive of the character and why they love it.
My side would win in a fight.
And that's exactly what I said right there. And that's the same background that I have. I was an athlete, and I grew up in North Minneapolis, and to stay away from the streets, I read comics and played with action figures and played video games. And DC reminded me of what was going on outside, and I became that. And I kind of like what he said with they preferenced it with my community, and he's not on Twitter or on Instagram, so he doesn't see a lot of it. I'll be honest with you guys, I don't run into too many people in the real world who says Marvel is better than DC. I've probably ran into like 2 or 3 people that said that, and I know they're biased, and I know they don't read comics, and I know they're easily entertained. And that's no disrespect to anyone that likes Marvel, not putting anybody into a bubble, but I know that this individual and the couple individuals who have said that, I know that's their characteristics, and I know people who like DC actually put me onto comics. So that's how I got into DC, actually, was that it was other DC members, or that's how I got back into comics, actually, was that other adults were into DC. So I'd always get their comics, or they would ask me if I watched it, and so forth, so forth. So yeah.
I'm going for it. Yeah. Oh, wow, they know too.
They know.
It's good. They know what's up.
They know the place.
I think that's why the conversation is Marvel connects more with like the real person, because DC does feel like Titans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And to me, comic books are American mythology. I heard that somewhere in a documentary, and it's true. You know, we don't have like an American mythos outside of like Paul Bunyan and like some silly stuff. It's superheroes is really what it is. Yeah. And Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, these like, you know, Atlas holding the world on their shoulders figures. It's like, it's always them. Batman's like plan to defeat everyone is just, I'm Batman. Yeah. And everyone on Earth goes, he's right.
Yeah, get out of the way.
Yeah.
I mean, if we're gonna get down to the brass of it, you know, a pissed off Superman, good luck. Someone taking out the big dog, you know.
I always see these videos on YouTube, like, oh yeah, Superman versus Hulk, or Batman versus Iron Man, and it's like, it's all made up. People have their own
and listen, until Superman fights Goku, we know that's the real.
See, we're not all delusional.
Hi, guys.
I mean, this isn't even a question. Like, the Justice League is way overpowered. Like, way overpowered.
Right.
I would just say their brutality is a lot more severe compared to Marvel characters. That was like the only thing that came to mind. I was saying the MCU is a little bit more light and fluffy, so they have a.
See, and that goes back to like I was saying, there is no competition when it comes to Avengers and Justice League. As you saw, the people on Marvel's side actually stayed in the back when they said, okay, this side would win in a fight. Justice League is too powerful. They're too brutal. They're savages, man. Like I said, in the world of DC, the supervillains are who you relate to, and then the superheroes are the bad guys. So Marvel would go against a whole bunch of bad guys who are posing as good guys, in other words.
A little bit more humanistic like thoughts, and I just feel like they would completely just destroy them, unfortunately. Yeah.
I guess my only question would be, if you want to pit one person against another person, the whole argument that I hear a lot with, DC fans is Batman with prep time.
Always wins.
What is that argument? Because he's just a dude.
I've never made that argument because honestly, the argument is usually he's already had the prep time.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's always the twist. Is
So you
everyone's
just
like,
assume he's already figured it
Batman's
out?
prepared for every his mind is like, I've calculated 17
supposed to
million
be
outcomes.
prepared, yeah.
Like if
He's
they,
Doctor Strange essentially.
he's Doctor
without the
Strange.
time.
Yeah, like if
okay.
they were together in a movie and Doctor Strange was like, I saw these outcomes, he'd be like, yeah, I did too.
Yeah.
And as a reader too, not just a viewer, I do get bored of that. You know what I mean? Because then there's almost no stakes. Just like Batman knew all along. I was
Very
like,
true.
oh,
I
cool,
didn't
so
think
it
about
wasn't
that.
even. It didn't even matter,
What I liked about Infinity War and the Snyder Cut was the level of dread you felt for the characters and what they were having to go through in order to get to their goal, and their goal was not ultimately met. Especially with Infinity, I got so emotional at Infinity War, and my head literally hurt after watching that. Having the characters be vulnerable, like not having them at their peak. Is very important for the audience to be able to relate and to be able to feel for the characters.
Right.
Martin Scorsese said Marvel movies are not cinema. Step forward if you agree.
Yeah, nobody better
Now
step up.
forward if you disagree.
Yep, everybody step up now.
Well, what does he know about making movies? Right? I think we all are going to disagree pretty heavy with that one. If you look at not just the numbers and not just the worldwide success, but also the stories and the emotions and the ebb and flow of the storytelling, I think they're definitely not only cinematic, but some of the best examples of art that a worldwide audience of different ages and a lot of different people can come together and watch and enjoy, where maybe sometimes a more boutique or arty film might not have that same response.
Yeah. I think the second you try to put ground rules on what art is, you fundamentally don't understand. You're missing the point of art.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
For sure.
Like, how do you define cinema?
Right.
You can't.
Right.
There's no, cookie cutter definition of, oh, okay, this movie is cinema, but like Shrek 2 is not. Like, it's
High cinema.
But it's that type of thing where if you decide that things have limits, you're already not only limiting the audience, but you're limiting creative freedom. If someone comes along and says, oh, that's not cinema, what are you telling the future filmmakers? That what they want to do is not considered cinema? You're immediately, trashing what these new people want to do.
It brings people together is the biggest thing. I think a cinema can do that. Yeah, you're right.
I mean, me and my dad watch it together. Me and my mom, me and my friends, and we're all different ages. That's like the point of cinema. So.
Group hug, everybody. Group hug. Bring it out, buddy. Bring it out.
That was fun.
Oh, yeah.
Nice to meet you. Good conversation.
Good job, boys.
That was actually a good video. I actually like that discussion. So, and it goes back to like that guy said, right? My community. If you're on Instagram, if you're on Facebook, if you're on Twitter and you're part of these groups, all you're going to hear is yang, 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 yang. My side's better, my side's better, my side's better. But you're missing the purpose of each side, right? And when you miss the purpose of each side, you start taking a side and you misunderstand what others are saying. And that's exactly what Marvel versus DC is, or I should say what this MCU versus DCU thing is. It's comic book readers who hate the movies because it's not what we grew up on. And we hate how these movie watchers all of a sudden think they're experts and they want to tell you everything that's comic related and make up all these numbers and all these facts, and it's not even true, and all these stories when they don't even know the story. It's insane. And it's the same thing with the moviegoers, the MCU and the DCU people, is that they don't like people who read the comics to tell them how things are supposed to go and how it's supposed to be, right? they have the blockbuster movie. That's how they say it. Well, I have, 3 or 4 blockbuster movies, and you have these comics that you had to read. So mine is just better. It's more entertaining because people watched more of the movie than they read the comic. And that's where people get lost in translation there. When really all you have to do is like what you like, man. If you're in the mood for, a little bit of social justice, or you want to find yourself, figure yourself out, pick up a Marvel. You want to watch or you want to read something that's just cold-blooded, deep, dark, twisted, tormented, gangster, thugged out. You gonna read DC. You gonna pick up DC. It's night and day. Apple and oranges, right? Comparing apple and oranges, man. But let's see. I think I got time for one more. I don't think I want to see any like battles, bro. I just want to listen to a debate. Let's see. So I do know who King Vader. I think King Vader is the guy. Like he does like movies and stuff like that, and he also has content. Let's see. Heated debate. How long is this? Because I watched this. I don't want to be sitting here for another 20 minutes though. Okay, let's see. See, and now it goes back to this. Is this going to be a Marvel versus DC debate, or is this a MCU versus DCU debate? But let's find out.
His argument is
Marvel vs. DC.
no. Okay, well I'm saying like, what is your stance? Who do you choose and why? Starting now. DC is better because.
Why?
All right, everybody. He says DC is better. That's his statement. Here we go.
First of all, DC is more original. That's number one. Every time they came out with a superhero, Marvel would come out with another superhero the same line, like a couple, maybe a year after. And I'm gonna
shut y'all both down.
I can tell you multiple. Okay, shut me down.
I kind of want to stop right there because I already know this dude's about to say something stupid. You could just see it in his eyes. Like, even the way he introduced the argument, you could tell this man, the one in the orange shirt, he just likes to argue. You can tell by his energy. You can tell by the way he sounds. He likes to argue. So he's already made up something in his mind that ain't gonna make no sense. That's why our brother already crossed his arms. Like, he knew this conversation wasn't going anywhere. But let's see what he says.
I'm not saying that that's not true, but DC has done the same thing.
Okay, they did
a lot of characters that Marvel has.
Okay, but look.
Examples.
No examples.
Wait, DC, you got Deathstroke. What his name is? Slade Wilson. They made Deadpool. Wade Wilson.
Okay. So then
Deathstroke got half a face.
All right,
he
so
came
then
out
how
first.
do you
half a face? Deadpool,
Okay.
the mask, and all that.
Okay, so how do you
the guns?
Yeah, I get what you're saying. Slade Wilson, Wade Wilson. I get it.
They did that on purpose.
They did that on purpose because it was a parody of their character. Exactly. But then on the flip side, Aquaman was a ripoff of the Submariner from Marvel. A lot of people don't know that.
But exactly. Have you ever heard of the Submariner? It's irrelevant.
It doesn't matter though. It doesn't matter.
Irrelevant.
No, it doesn't matter though, because you took a character and you copied it. That's the argument you're making about Marvel.
Okay, but Marvel did it more. That's the problem.
Well, they didn't. It's very
DC only did it because they got tired of them doing it to them. So they were like, okay, that's
Yeah,
what
exactly.
you want to do, and they did it back.
Exactly, bro. I told you what was coming. This man in his orange or red shirt knows nothing. He's just like a lot of the DCU, MCU arguers. They have no idea what they're talking about, but they're going to say something. They have something to say, whether it's right or wrong, indifferent, whether they're right in the fence, they're always going to have something to say.
So then Marvel has the Wasp, right? Mm-hmm. A couple of years later, they came up with a character that was exactly the same. They called her Bumblebee. Same powers. DC. Okay. Do you know who Bumblebee is?
No.
Yep.
Irrelevant.
How is that irrelevant? I'm taking your argument and I'm showing you that DC doesn't. Do you have anything else to explain why DC is
first of all, I want to start talking about the fights. I don't even worry about it.
So wait, now what is this basis? Are we talking about character versus character fights? Are we talking about popularity versus the two? What are you talking about? Fights. Okay, I'm listening.
3-on-3. Who's your 3 best Marvel characters? Most powerful. I don't care who it is. Most powerful.
Incredible Hulk.
Yeah. He messed up. He messed up right then and there.
Hold on. Sentry. Do you know who Sentry is?
Yes, I do.
You know who Sentry is?
You showed me in the computer.
Sentry. And X-Man. No, Thor's okay, but X-Man.
Look at the
Nate
people
Gray.
he just named.
You mean the professor?
Century, I give him credit there. He knows what he's talking about. I'll give him that. He mentioned Century.
Do you know what their power sets are?
I don't care.
Exactly. So you can't say this easy
Check me out, bro.
I'm waiting. Because I know one of the characters you're gonna say.
Who I'm gonna say?
Go ahead.
Who I'm gonna say?
You're gonna say Superman, right?
No.
Who you gonna say?
I go deeper than that. All of them cheeks. Check me out.
X-Men is
First of all, 2 words. Dark side.
What?
That's your only argument, bro?
No. I got 2 others, but dark side. Check me out.
Superman
can be right here. Dark side can be in pumping though. That would just stand still. They just they move.
First of all, they're not lasers.
They shoot. Oh, mega
they're
beams.
Omega beams.
They can go pew 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 pew. Shoot them in the face. Like, have you ever seen the movie?
I could take a lesser powerful
and it looks much better.
I could take a lesser powerful person on Marvel, and he will beat Darkseid. Vision.
No.
Because if Darkseid tries to shoot him, and then he becomes intangible, and the beam goes through him, what? Then what? Then what?
That man tripping.
They realize. People come with perks. Darkseid has his own planet filled with his own little minions or something. Some know why they're coming out the gate, man.
Thanos.
Okay, Thanos. Irrelevant.
Give me the facts, bro. Thanos is pretty much exactly like Darkseid.
He's not nothing like
Except
Thanos.
Except the thing that makes Thanos more powerful, he has the Infinity Gauntlet.
He doesn't really have it. He doesn't currently have it. Due to Marvel Cinematics, he does not have it.
Not to mention, I'm talking about the comic.
Okay, comic. Okay.
Because you're talking about characters. I was about to go there with the films.
Okay.
That would have been a whole different argument.
Yeah.
But I'm just saying, Marvel, in terms of the characters, you can't say that they'll easily be beaten by DC. Because for every character you have on DC,
you can't
Marvel has some type of equivalent or somebody better than
Because the Marvel, they try to outdo DC. I swear to God, it's a whole half of their roster that they just overpower their characters, bro.
If you really think about it, DC has more characters that are overpowered. Marvel has more human-based, relatable characters that were blessed with powers.
Great point. I give him his point. Yep, very true. Very true.
You know what I'm saying? Freaking Superman is godlike. You can't say he's not.
Thanos.
You can't say Superman. Thanos is a villain, bro.
Check me out. The man has a wristwatch.
He has a gauntlet. He doesn't have a wristwatch.
It's a G-Shock.
Hold on.
Look, bro. He has. Matter of fact, we're gonna stop the time.
I stop the time.
You can stop time. He has different gems. Like they can control reality. What it is?
Reality, time, space, soul.
They had a movie about it, right?
He can destroy a universe and end everything in it.
So he'll end himself?
No, he will do something like to teleport himself.
So then, why are you complaining about what Thanos is able to do when you immediately brought up Darkseid?
Because he's not overpowered. I like for him to paint that boy.
For real.
You just said this man. This man has his own planet in it.
Like,
you know what I'm saying? Like Darkseid would.
Alright, let me shut it up right now. Superman, who gonna stop him?
X-Men. X-Men.
The Incredible Hulk. The madder he gets, the stronger he gets. If Superman hits the Hulk and he has that healing factor that stops him from dying, and he gets madder and gets stronger, all he gotta do is catch Superman once and give him a bear hug.
When have you seen Superman die?
Superman died with Doomsday.
Doomsday kills him.
Yeah.
Okay, that's another person. Doomsday. He won't paint the Hulk with no remorse at all. I would wait for say that word, Doomsday. I didn't want to say it because I wanted him to say it.
First of all, they fought before on a Marvel.
You know what? The game changed. I think this brother right here in the red orange shirt, he's a good dude. I can kind of see that he worked for the Boys and Girls Club. I think this is something just to get everybody, you know, keep him out of trouble. And this is one of those things, you know, it's actually healthy to where he's not on the street arguing, fighting with anybody. You know, they're inside a controlled atmosphere talking about a fight between comic book characters. And it's not even an argument. They're having a discussion, and he's showing him how to articulate and listen, and showing him that if he listens to himself, everything is pretty much the same.
Marvel DC crossover event, and Hulk whooped him. The reason why Doomsday can't beat him is because Doomsday can't overpower Hulk. Hulk will overpower him all the time. The thing about Doomsday is he can die and
come back to life. He will not be able to die the same way.
Yeah, but if
he gonna look, check me out. He'll win the fight. He ain't gonna win the war club. What's up with that man?
Okay, well look.
BB Bop, Doomsday die, come back to life. BB Bop, it don't work no more.
Yeah, when is Hulk gonna die?
BB Bop stab.
When is Hulk gonna die? When is Hulk gonna die? Never. Hulk doesn't die.
No, Hulk gonna die. Check me out. Catch that boy slipping. You Bruce Banner right now? Stab, die, boom.
Because he shot him. He was Bruce Banner and shot himself in the mouth, and the Hulk spit it out.
Okay, he spit it out. Doomsday. Bruce Banner, rip him apart. Throw his other body down. Who is Hulk? Like, what are you gonna do? His legs are over there. His head is over there. It's gonna crawl back together. Is that what's gonna happen? It's gonna crawl back together. Is that gonna happen?
Are you done? You really think Hulk's gonna let that happen?
My man Broken Traditions is here.
Oh. No, it's brother. Doomsday can just
the Hulk's strength level is limitless.
He can be just chilling in the cut. He'd be like,
he talking about a bomb.
Like, Hulk evolved right now.
I want you to understand. Doomsday is not super fast.
And that's a great point when it comes to Doomsday. With Doomsday, he is so angry at the world because scientists locked him up and killed him over and 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 over again. Because that's his superpower. He can't be killed twice the same way. And when he dies, he comes back to life. And that's the reason why he beat Superman. I mean, when it came to that writing, that was just so genius. Just imagine if that was your superpower, right? Was that you can't die. Someone kills you, you can't die the same way. So regardless, you can never die. So even in a fight, let's just say someone stabs you today, right? You get in a fight tomorrow and somebody stabs you, you can't die. So they're just stabbing you for no reason. It's pointless. So it goes to things like that where a lot of these characters in DC are overpowered and they are monstrous. But that's what I'm getting at, is that when you compare Marvel to DC, it's like comparing a Chihuahua to a pit bull. Like, some people just like miniature stuff, you know, playful dogs, little small dogs, easy to clean up after. Some need that big, nasty, mean, vicious dog, you know what I mean, that walks up to the front yard like, what's up? They don't want something barking at somebody at the ankles, you know what I mean? But I like this debate, and just to see two brothers do it. And like I said, you can tell the brother here in the orange and the red shirt, he works for the Boys and Girls Club, and he's keeping this brother out the streets. The brother ain't in the streets arguing with nobody, fighting with nobody. They're actually in a controlled environment, debating each other. And I mess with that. I love that a lot, man. You kind of miss things like that.
So do you think that if
my man Broken Traditions, not much, brother, just sitting here streaming some content, bored, you know, my Minnesota Vikings is eliminated from the playoffs, so time to brush up on some old hobbies. And of course, this is one of those hobbies. Hop in front of the camera, turn on the lights, hit the microphone, and just go, you know. But I got to get my cadence back down. That's one of the things I'm missing. Every time I look into the camera, I lose myself because I'm looking at that light. However, once I get back into it, I'm gonna be good. But brother, I've been seeing you've been doing your thing, man. You've been pumping out content all the time. I see you live at least like twice a week. I try to join as many as I can, listen to what you're saying, check out a few of your videos. I just want to let you know, man, that you got some good content, brother. Keep it going. I think personally you're on the side that I'm on with everything. You have the same point of views. it's just unfortunate that if you were to express the point of views to a lot of our brothers and sisters, they may not agree with us, but that doesn't make us wrong or indifferent. That just means we see it from all aspects, and only one aspect makes sense to us, and that's common sense. So brother, keep up the content. Everybody who's watching, go ahead and check out my man Broken Traditions. We still have a review coming out on Infatuation by, I believe it's Ace of Spades. So brother, whenever you get a chance, make sure you shoot me that text message. I can record that video today. Actually, I ain't got nothing to do, so like I said, getting back into the content type thing. You guys need any reviews done, make sure you go ahead and check out my webpage at www.reviewsfromthe6.com. Also, you can leave donations as well. Make sure you hit the donation bell. Make sure you hit the like button. Make sure you hit the subscribe button. Also, make sure you leave me a comment as well. So that's until next time. I love you guys. Thank you for joining, and everyone have a good day. Peace and blessings.